Everyone is asking me the same question about Bitcoin right now. It just ripped over 40% off its low, and tonight it is sitting at just under 75,000. Is 100,000 next? Here's the honest answer. Probably, eventually, but not directly from here. And that distinction matters because it means there is no reason to chase this. If the structure plays out the way it looks, a much better entry point is coming before the real move to 100,000 gets going. Let me walk you through exactly why. Back in June, I called a drop into the low 52,000 zone for Bitcoin, with a long-term target just above 152,000 once the bigger structure completes. Bitcoin dropped right into that zone, bottomed, and has since ripped more than 40% off the low to where it sits tonight. That call is on the record and it is playing out. This move off the low has come up in a clean 5-wave advance for wave 1 and so on. That dropped in a 3-wave pullback for wave 2nd and has now spiked into wave 3rd territory of the next leg up. In Elliott wave terms, a 5-wave move in the direction of the larger trend, followed by a clean 3-wave correction against it, is what a genuinely productive structure looks like. It is very different from the choppy, overlapping price action that shows up in a correction that is not done yet. All of this sits inside a bigger thesis. Bitcoin is completing wave 4 and starting wave 5 of a leading diagonal at the supercycle degree. That is the largest degree I track on this chart, and it is the same pattern structure I have used on gold and silver. A leading diagonal is a 5-wave pattern where the waves overlap each other, and it typically shows up at the start of a major new move rather than the end of one. If you want the full explanation with chart examples, I have a dedicated article linked below. The point for tonight is simple. This current rally is the early innings of that wave 5. It is not the whole move. To confirm the bullish case, Bitcoin needs to go down in 3 waves for wave 4 of this smaller degree, then back up over 80,700 for wave 5. That would complete wave 1 of the larger advance. It needs to hold 62,200 on that pullback, and I would rather see it stay over 66,800. Those two levels are not arbitrary. They come from the same Fibonacci relationships that called the bottom back in June. After that wave 5 high print, I expect Bitcoin to come back down in a 3-wave move, got into the 63,000 to 75,000 zone. That pullback, not the price right now, is the better place to be adding. So here is the near-term path as I see it. A minor pullback first, then a push above 80,700. After that, a bigger pullback, the one I just described. Then the next leg targets 100,000. And the long-term setup pointing above 153,000 is still intact. Let me walk through the levels that actually matter here, starting with the upside. 80,700 completes this leg and confirms wave 1 of the larger advance. 97,745 is the level that would fully confirm the bigger direction change is underway, not just a smaller bounce. And 100,000 is the next major target once the pullback I described resolves. Now the downside, because this is just as important, I want to see 66,800 hold on the coming pullback. That is the preferred level. 62,200 is the line that actually keeps this bullish setup alive. And 57,600, the current low, is the level that sends the whole structure back to the drawing board if it breaks. Those are not the same thing. One is a preference, one is the setup, one is a full reset. So what would prove this wrong? If Bitcoin breaks and holds below 62,200, this particular bullish setup has to start over. That does not necessarily kill the larger thesis, but it kills this specific path. A break below 57,600 is more serious. At that point, the entire structure needs to be evaluated from scratch. Not just patched. with a new label. One note before I wrap up, because I get this question every time I post a target. Every level I just gave you comes from structure and Fibonacci relationships, not from a calendar. I do not publish timing predictions, and I never will. Elliott wave gives you direction and magnitude. It never gives you a when. If a chart of mine ever shows a projection sitting over some future date, that is just where the drawing happened to land, not a forecast about that date. If you are wondering why that is, I have written a full article on exactly this, and I will link it below. Bottom line, this is one of the more productive setups I have seen on this chart in months, and it is tracking the bigger leading diagonal thesis exactly as expected, but likely headed toward 100,000 eventually, and buy it right here are two very different statements. Here is the part that matters most. If this plays out the way I expect, price pushes higher first, then comes right back down into that 63 to 75,000 zone. That zone sits at or below where Bitcoin is sitting tonight. So buying right here risks watching it rally, then round trip back to about where you started, or lower, before the real move even begins. I would rather skip that round trip entirely, let this leg finish, and add once the pullback is actually in hand. Not chase it at today's price. I have written exactly what I am doing with my own position on this one, including the specific level that would change my mind in the full breakdown on the site. I am not going to read all of that here, because it comes with context and caveats that matter, and this is not the place to compress them. Go read it. So here's my question for you. Are you chasing this rally, or are you waiting for that better entry lower? Drop your answer below. Either way, subscribe now, so you are here for the call the moment that entry actually shows up. I will see you in the next one.